Hello, everyone. Hello. And welcome. It is going to be coding time today once again. We'll see how that goes. Otherwise, been a pretty good week. And we're still on track to have most of the streams on time. Hey there, Key. How we doing? Still adjusting to my new chair. Requires better posture and whatnot than the prior ones, so the bad habits are slowly giving up ground. If nothing else, it's a good idea. It's a good incentive to do back exercises and what have you. See Oran, I believe, over there on the tall format. Burr has taken post on my shoulder here. We'll see how the Game Fest goes there, Tass. See if we get anything actually good, or if it's just major companies clinging to stuff that has stopped working. I'm betting more of the latter than the former. Ember requiring more attention. Oh. Let's see how far we can get today. Hey there, Mio. Welcome back. Last time, we got the basics of the tree in place. Or at least the classes that need to be there. And we mapped out what the flow is going to be. Now we need some methods for pinging the physics state to see if it is ready ready for its collision logic. We can just have a start and finish call. Not really, Mio. We're actually moving a little bit slower. But that's okay, because we get to think things through very clearly and chat a lot. Ow, 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 ow. Ember, balance better. Ow. So the new chair doesn't have as much headrest for them to walk across. Which leaves my neck as one of the places that they have to, plant claws. Yeah, I'm talking about you. says, "Well, stop talking about me and give me chin scratches." She being all wriggly. Yeah. Ugh. Okay, so one of the advantages is a lot of these things are going to be going away. A lot of these messages that we've got are going to be going away with this process. We just need to get this in place first and then find all of the ones that aren't being called anymore and call them. Because, like, these are entirely to try to facilitate the thing that we're making a better structure for. This worked, but it would require that we make sure that it keep working, if that makes any sense. There is maintenance overhead, let's put it that way. Whereas if we put it as an explicit part of the interface and we make that call part of the structure, then it not working is that the call isn't happening, as opposed to we didn't remember to subscribe to the message and the message didn't do the right thing. We're reducing the number of moving parts, theoretically, eventually. Okay. So we have the idea that we have to start physics and that we need to perform the physics results. These aren't gets, so these are going to effectively be start physics and just finish physics. This is if start physics were to succeed outright, finish physics wouldn't need to do anything. But that generally doesn't matter. So busy is effectively a failure state for our loop. It's not actually an error, but it's not good if it stays busy, because that means we're eating extra physics frames. What we want is that at the end of one frame we start physics, and at the top of the next frame we can get the results. If it's working properly, then it will wait for that. The additional benefit is doing it this way does let us get some of these things branched out. Like, if we need to, we can put physics, the performing physics, in a different thread. Not a thread of our making, but like the visual thread. We can say, this needs to begin, this needs to be finished. And we can get the result, we can have the results ready to go on the next physics frame. Ideally, we do not have to do that. Adjust the chair a little bit here. There we go. There we go. Better. Better. A what meal? Have I ever played a horror game? Yes. Numerous horror games. Horror is kind of like saying science fiction, though. There are a whole lot of different types of horror. Did you have one in mind when you were asking that? Or at least a type? As for example, like I've played a lot of Anomaly Watch style games where you are looking through security cameras to spot the weird things happening. Abstract. That can be virtual. And less like FNAF. With FNAF, it's keeping track of the things directly coming to get you, but I would say though it lives in a similar neighborhood, yes. General gimmick with anomaly games is that something will change, like a chair will move, or worst case, a creepy creature will appear in an area, and you need to essentially point it out to make it go away. Poppy playtime? No. Haven't played. Really, as far as the stream is concerned, I've not played any mascot horror. I tried off of stream FNAF, and it didn't really click, you know? FNAF, to me, especially the later ones, turned into a spinning plates game, where you have a lot of different little things that you need to be doing, like constantly pushing buttons on the regular, like, oh, I have to make sure to wind the music box, I have to make sure this, I have to make sure that, and getting all of the little things going. That isn't to say that's a bad type of game, but I don't find it particularly interesting or even necessarily horror. FNAF in general to me is jump scare horror. Its greatest strength is startling you. Decision node result. I heard Alien Isolation was good. I am told that later in the game it can get to be a little cabinet stealth. Apparently there are like corrupted android guards that behave very much like traditional video game guards, you know. March in a circle, hey, what was that? I guess it was the wind. Kind of stuff. But the idea of like detecting that the thing is there and evading it as opposed to it being present and doing a patrol is very different. So hey, I mean, good on them. I could have this emit a decision node result itself, and I think I want to. So by default, we're going to have it fail. This needs some sort of implementation. You know what? By default, it does not. Well, no. We have it fail. This should never be like. This should never linger. Okay. And if it should never linger in that form, we do that. And then we have double delta. Whoop. The address to my Twitch stream. Okay, so when this is just kicking it off. It is really expected that this be marked as succeed. In theory, we could also mark it as busy. Just for accurate, like one way to view it is succeed means it's done all at once. Hey, Roman. Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. We are trying to restructure the core game loop to make the physics handling more coherent. The keeping an eye on the microphone. Every now and then well, I did discover one of the reasons that it picks up extra noise. The microphone I got after the old Blue Yeti that I had finally kicked the bucket is really, really, really sensitive. So what you're hearing right now is at 99% gain out of 100. The difference between it picking up all kinds of extra noise and what you're hearing right now is 1%. If it goes to 100, it picks up like every little thing in the room. But if I do this is 96%. And this is 99. Even 98% is fantastically quieter. I don't know what's up with that, but is what is. The cat started playing in the background. Oh, did I look in your direction? Hello. Ember's not a fan of the new chair. The lack of the big plush headrest for her to walk across is throwing her off. As far as current issues, there isn't really anything as far as combining the behaviors that is currently causing us problems. What we're dealing with right now is kind of the aftermath, doing all of the hit detection calculations. We discovered a flaw in the way that we were doing it that was causing, comically, exactly one entity ID to be immune to collision, and as soon as it happened, it was forever immune to collision. Because the entity continued to exist after the entity itself declared that it shouldn't, or at least physics and the events declared it shouldn't. Things got weird, and in pursuing that issue, we discovered a flaw in the way we were doing the calculation, or at least in the way that Godot says that part of the algorithm should work. So we had to change stuff. And this is at the end, what I hope is actually the end of the current long rabbit hole. Okay, so we make start physics and end physics on this. We use that within our shader collision manager here. To kick things off, we need collision manager in general needs to implement physics state. We could have virtual methods that are overridden. So the abstract becomes a virtual. But no, for simplicity's sake, we are going to make these virtual. And we will make them fail if you don't implement them. Having them not let you compile by making them abstract is one way to go about this. The alternative that we've got that we're implementing right now is to essentially make it explode at runtime. So if you do not implement this function, if you do not override the virtual method, then when something calls it, and it inevitably will, once we get it coded to do so, this will return a fail, and a fail case doesn't work. Or at least it should never be coded to work cleanly. So, for example, if I start physics, I expect it to say, okay, I began and I'm working on it, which is busy, or I started it and immediately was done, so I report succeed. As far as the decision tree is concerned, it expects busy, but the way that we should pursue the logic, succeed should be the same thing. We go until something hits busy or did nothing. As far as operations. In particular, we're interested in busy or fail. I feel like real-world celebrities in works of fiction, even when they are set in the real world, creates problems, just like using licensed music. A lot of times the agreements for the use of a person's likeness or a work of music, they frequently have time limits on them. And because the licensing posture. Oh, yeah, okay. That's even worse. Virtualized likenesses can need to not happen. Like concerts and AI generated new albums, all kinds of stuff like that. It's like, no, I don't care if they were working on the album. We don't need to go into their notes or into demos and whatnot. Sorry. Tess is describing, I believe, as part of the Games Fest, that a game is going to feature Tupac. And this is a dead artist who is being placed in a game. So the likeness of a dead person being used in a piece of media. This isn't just like referring to the person appearing, I would assume. If it's just, showing them as if they were at a concert that would have existed at the time, that's different. But if it is a person that you can interact with as if it is essentially new media, things get dodgy fast. I don't care if their estate is okay with it. I mean, legally, it's up to their estate, but I feel like it's it usually ends up being very flagrantly a trashy cash grab to say, oh yeah, sure. I'm quite certain that this celebrity would endorse your new brand of soda. Yes, Tass, it's tacky. There are plenty of living people that could endorse or act in your product. So then we need a start physics. Public virtual. Because it's physics state, it should pass down. But it's a collision manager, and we should have a public override from collision manager. Yeah, it implements physics state. No, we only have public overrides. Hello, Mesma. We strive for the channel to grow. It is happening ever so slowly. Constant effort. Why is this not... We've done collabs before, Mesma. Big trick is finding somebody who is either just interested in doing so or aligns with the vibe of the channel, or both. Well, thank you for swinging through, Mesma. It's what we shoot for, Roman. Nice chill atmosphere, largely. Why does implementing this here... So this is a node 2D, and it has an override for ready and a... And then in our shader collision manager, it overrides ready as well. Do I need to override ready again? Mio, you'd asked about the cookie, a cookie cutter shark. I do not know what is. Why does this not do? Shader Collision Manager extends node. It's a public partial. Collision Manager is a public partial. That is what the small shark that lives in the deep ocean. Okay. Why does this not work? Okay, this one should definitely have an override that it can do. Is it Yoko Taro? I mean, if they were involved, if the actual director of Nier was involved in the decision to make a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, I could believe it if for no other reason than that guy's statements tend to feel a little bit unhinged. Apparently at the Games Fest, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game has been announced that is being made by the team that made Nier. Now, if it's got a dark look to it, then they might actually be looking back at the original works, which were darker and more violent. Like the 90s cartoon was a light and fluffy rendition. I recall the original had a lot more stabbing. They also all wore the same red face masks and whatnot. Why does this not work? Because we are using further overrides. But maybe it's because we're using Collision Manager and it's extending interfaces, but this is extending from a class. No, that doesn't make sense because this one extends directly from physics state and cannot override this. we're not getting these here. So why can I not implement those? Suspect. That works, and this is overriding something on Node, which it directly implements. It could directly implement the interface. Collision Manager is only needed to facilitate the presence of cleanup, as well as the fact that it extends from a node. Why does this not carry forward? I mean, maybe that's just the problem, is that we aren't using that. Nope. Wait. A Gundam game that looks like it took inspiration from Evangelion. Is that in bot design and behavior, like their movement, or are we talking they're fighting strange creatures? Oh, strange creatures. Okay. Quite odd. Okay, so what's not working here? Don't have an example there. Oh. I'm just doing it wrong. Okay. Womp womp. How long do I stream for, Mio? Upwards of 3 hours, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. If I get really engrossed, it can run extra long because I'll lose track of time. My spine. Okay, in the interface, I shouldn't be implementing them this way. Okay, I need to implement this. By default, we'll make it virtual here. Sky, sky, sky. Are you done toasting? Yeah. Sky wants back scratches. So he gets some back scratches. Sky's a domestic long hair, so it can be really good for his skin and coat to kind of get in there and work your fingers in, especially along the back. Any areas that he can't like easily twist around and groom. It helps get some of the undercoat fur loose. Helps kind of spread the skin oil around to areas that are getting dry and flaky. I mean, and, you know, back scratches are nice. But it serves many purposes. Well, you're going to get stuck if you wriggle over there. You're going to get trapped under the desk. And then I'll get all clawed up when you panic. Turn decision node result dot fail. By default, if you just have a collision manager, which you shouldn't, this isn't meant to exist by itself, then it will fail. As such, I should make this an abstract class, but we don't actually want it to be. If we get to the point where this is no longer needed, the only thing in the class that would be default would be this, where it calls itself Collision Manager. But a lot of this is vestigial. At least services.collision manager. We have implemented that differently now. Anyhow. Being squirmy, Sky. Okay, so we wanted to start physics. And by default, we're calling it this, that it will fail if we don't intervene. Hello, hello. I must hug Cat. Quite literally, he has his hind legs braced on my legs and has, like, belly to chest up mine so that he can be right in front of the camera and super disrupt it. Yeah, but he's a sweetie. He doesn't come to demand direct affection like this as often as the others. But every now and then he do. He's actually much more sociable than Sammy is. Just when he interacts with people or other cats. But they do swing by for attention, like Sammy swings by for direct attention a lot more now. Sammy being the little tuxedo on camera currently. This guy is off camera and being a nuisance. being very squirmy, which makes it hard to use the human interface devices. Okay, so we get our result. Now we are looking for the thing. Let's start the process. So right now, this is the retrieve. And this is, okay, we need compute collisions. Sir. 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 Says you stopped. He does. He'll do the full headbutt thing. When he climbs up me to get a hug like that, if I try to ignore him, I will take cat forehead to nose. Which, you know, is a sign of affection, but also inflicts damage. You generally don't get to see it on camera, because they're usually napping and not looking right at the camera. At least not when you guys, when we happen to be looking. But in some of the pet board pictures, shameless plug, the Discord has a board where I periodically will post pet photos. Sky's facial markings, his upper lip has white on it. He's otherwise kind of a dark gray. But underbelly, socks, his neck ruff are white, but additionally, his upper lip and his right, kind of the right side of the muzzle are white. So he always has kind of a little smirk going on. You done? Okay. He says, I'm done with you now. As much as people derided Genshin Impact, and this is Task commenting on Summer Games Fest, as much as people derided Genshin Impact for having a lot of the movement style and gimmicks that you got out of Breath of the Wild and similar, it mimicked that because it's good. It works. And I think it gives you the opportunity for a lot of exploration, that having that kind of mobility. And there's something to be said for that, regardless of what kind of game you're really dealing with. If you have an open world, it makes it feel more open when a lot of the areas can be reached. Do my cats fight with each other a lot? No, Mio, they don't. There will be occasional confrontations. Generally, Sky will try to bully one of the others, usually Ember, because he can win against Ember. Mason will generally not care, and Sammy would swing back. He can only win against Ember because he is twice her size, and she avoids confrontation. Okay, so if we change this, what we end up doing is that we remove this portion and move it into compute collisions. We're going to call this a Boolean now. It's moving along. Maybe it's moving along. We're in the process of getting a decision tree in place to drive the basic loop. So, Mio, that relates to a misapprehension that a lot of folks have, and it kind of feeds into it. And that's that people think cats are solitary, and that for the most part they sort of, avoid each other, leave each other alone. Cats are really social creatures. They will form groups. And if a cat is outside of that group, that cat is an enemy, or at least a target to antagonize. And those groups will shift. Social circles will change. All of mine are buddies. They all get along with each other, more or less. That doesn't mean they all cuddle up, but it means that everybody is tolerated and it's okay. Like, they'll all eat together. Ember only looks like she's outside of that loop because she doesn't like to shoulder in. But if, say, one of them cuddles up next to her, she doesn't care. She'll move if, she gets too warm or something. Yep. Like, they can get along. They I guess that's inaccurate. It's not automatically enemies in other groups, but you can get that situation where introducing a new cat to the group suddenly creates a new clique. And that new group might not like some of the others. Like the new head cat gets upset with one of the others and tries to drive them away, kind of stuff. Yeah, maybe groups of cats are generally territorial. That group can be just one. Hey there, Levi. Welcome, welcome, and thank you for the 30 months now. 30 months, wow. 2.5 years. A reminder of the passage of time. But there are two things that you can see to get an idea of the kind of behaviors I'm talking about. You'll occasionally see videos of cats attempting to cross paths with a whole bunch of cats in like a hallway or on a street side or in an alley or something, and the lone cat gets like swarmed by the others. And that's because they're a group. They are some form of unit. It can be anything from family or just they all share space, That's one of the things. There is a game called Stray. We played that on stream. Shameless plug. There's a Stray. There are VODs of that game. But it opens with an actual very realistic rendition of a colony of cats. They get along. They're sociable. There's like mutual grooming, that kind of stuff amongst many cats. But like I said, if you introduce a new one, part of that process is sort of easing them into the group and working with them. So that they can get along. If you just toss them in there and don't kind of introduce them in similar, then you can get conflicts. You can get conflicts very easily. Like when I introduced Sammy, Ember and Sammy really clashed with each other. Like hiss from a decent distance kind of clashing. Molly was less of a disruption in that regard, but Molly is also a really laid-back cat. She largely just doesn't care. She is very mellow. Yeah. Yes, you are. She is napping down into my right in one of the 2 little beds I got to keep her away from the chair wheels. Okay. We want something that determines whether this functioned or not. It makes sense for this just to be a Boolean the way that we've set it up. So we're going to have Boolean here. If computing, I don't like this sort of structure, but since it's right at the start, get all the way down through this mess and we say return true. So I don't mind this sort of code structure at the beginning or end, like entirely at the beginning or end. Because the alternative is you wrap everything in a giant if. And that doesn't really change what this is doing. You have to watch out. You don't want this to be in the middle of a function, because this is kind of an ambush condition. Is if I don't see, or if the code doesn't trace to that spot, then this return doesn't happen. But this, if you put it in the middle of code, like it could be in an if, it could be in a for loop, could be anywhere. So it's easy to overlook and it's easy to lose track of which code paths might hit this particular landmine. So to save yourself the pain, do it at the beginning, the end, or if you really want to, you can wrap it all in one big if, and then have the else at the end, that kind of thing. But this is a be very careful with kind of thing. That said, yeah, let's be robust. Let's be robust. If we're not computing, we do all of that. And if we get all the way to the end of this, which shouldn't matter, but result is equal to true. How's the game coming along? Like raw function-wise, we have the skeleton of loading maps and wall collision, as well as like entering a world map, that kind of thing. We discovered a problem with the way we were doing collision handling, like there was a flaw in it, and in resolving that flaw, we found a performance issue. And so now to help isolate that and similar performance issues, we're having to go back and review how we're doing the core gameplay loop, because it had started to get really messy. So we're fixing that. But part of fixing that is getting this mess all in line. Okay. So now we can fire that easily enough. What do we want to call this? This isn't really a Boolean state. This is a multi-part state. So I'm probably going to change that in just a minute. Oh, this is a decision node result. We need working. So this one, if it doesn't, this is a nothing. Yeah, maybe it's realizing that it's finding that past me made a mistake, but additionally having the opportunity, but also finding out what do we need to do to make the structure actually work, because it is also that we didn't do it right. Like, the whole idea was incomplete. And now we have to think about making it actually fully functional again. What do we want to call this? Finish collision calculation. That can be the case, maybe, where it's like, I know what I wanted to accomplish, or what we were shooting to accomplish, but now trying to work with it further and trying to dig in with it further, we've hit the limits of that and revealed that there were weak spots in that design. Things that, if I keep going down the road, if I left it as is and kept going that way, it could become a maintenance problem. It would become easier and easier to lose track of how it was supposed to work. And additionally, it would become easier and easier to take shortcuts. Well, I could just do it this way. No, let's not do that. If computing so like part of yes, maybe spaghetti code is often a result of losing track of what you're doing over time, and or because it was easy at the time thinking. A common way of putting that is, well, can't we just? It's easy. We can just do it this way. It'll be real quick. No, it won't. Doesn't matter if you can adjust the code such that it passes the test. It's okay now. But you're less worried about now when avoiding this kind of thing, and more worried about a month from now, a year from now, one major patch from now. I think a better way to put that maybe is every temporary solution is a permanent one. In what was nearly an argument with a project manager once, it was, well, can't we just do it this way? Can't we just do it this way? And it was, no, I've worked on this team for long enough to know if we just do it this way temporarily, if the results are favorable, then temporarily becomes permanently. And the temporary solution we have is either rickety or actively bad if it stays there for long. Ultimately, that was, hey, we can do a testing thing that gets that is built to be turned off, that automatically turns itself off after a period of time and reverts back to what it was. And you can see if you like the results. And if you do, we can do something permanent. We can actually do the work. But let's just do it this way real quick is a good way to turn your code into a maintenance nightmare. But it totally happens, and the mindset is hard to avoid. We'll get to it later. No, you won't. You never will. So at the end, computing is false. So when we're finishing collision, that is up here. That is this stuff here. Baldur's Gate, but Star Wars could be interesting if they avoid having Jedi everywhere. It's fine if a Jedi is visible, that they're in the plot, but something in the writing of Star Wars gravitates to them, and it doesn't need to. Thanks for swinging through, Mio. Yeah, maybe they, at least in the original trilogy, that was a period of time when there were very few left. You had the emphasis on the kind of limited pool. The ultimately what is there is a current and there is a successor, one for good and one for evil kind of thing. So, 4 total at any given moment was the state of the world, but then they dipped into ye olden times where there were Jedi everywhere. And post-trilogy, in the aftermath, the Jedi Order and similar starts recovering and you start getting more and more of them. But I feel like they've become a narrative crutch as far as making some of the movies and similar, where it's oh, but Jedi are super cool, space wizards with laser swords. And it's Yeah, but the rest of your story needs to carry without them, and if everybody is a space wizard with a laser sword, then you've got issues. Right, maybe. Mandalorian's a good indication of you don't have to have one front and center. I know a couple appear, but that's okay. They can appear, they can exist in the world, but if it has to orbit around them, it generally turns into a spectacle fighter, you know? Not necessarily a cool setting and story so much as a look at this cool guy do cool stuff. And there are space for movies like that, you know? I'm not saying that look at this cool guy doing cool stuff is a bad story. Just you can write other stories. So let's see, a vampire game where they actually do make use of the idea that you're dealing with immortals and that they can exist over long periods. That could be interesting. Could be interesting. Depends on how they play those cards, you know? Baron, what? I haven't watched all of it, but just the short the bits that I have seen of it, I think do a good job of taking a what amounts to a kind of an eternal individual and showing them like becoming attached to folks and learning like realizing what their lives are like. We get a taste of the I think differently. Like it's only going to be 40 years, guys. It's just it was only 10 years. But then them also having built those relationships, coming to terms with what it means for those to end because of the different scale of time. That's a cool story. I don't know if they'll eventually play the card that a lot of vampire stories deploy. I think as almost a trope that they don't think about, and that's the and you know I become tired of having to deal with the loss of these mortals kind of thing. You know, life has become boring now because I just don't want to have to deal with that. I don't want to have to build relationships and friendships. I often find those stories, those characters to effectively be lazy. Um, like just within my lifespan, within every period of history, amazing and new things get created. Imagine a individual, let's do the whole the vampire goes dormant for a protracted period, you know? They hide out and they want to make a new identity. Like let's say they went to sleep in 1900 and woke up in 2000, 100 years later. Think of all of the cool stuff, brand new, never before thought of stuff. Yeah, Tess, it's effectively a why did you interact with people in general, you know? If you have a story of like an eternal being who decides, you know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to hang out with these people and I'm going to build relationships with them. The narrative could be, and I didn't like it. But in a lot of the vampire stories, it's presented as an inevitable result of that, which is weird. Um, as much as a, I feel that character Tess is as much a, it's kind of the demigod deciding whether they want to treat you as one of them. It's got the vibe of if a vampire was born and not created, you know. Hey Taz. I don't think so. Forgive me. Okay, so we finish collisions here. We always invoke physics done. So physics done will happen here. Yeah, just invoke physics done here. Did I break it? Okay, collisions are happening. Yes, okay, still functioning. Still functioning. Let's get a save state in there. I thought I had. To get a hole in place. There. Ah, no. Okay. Well, missed some messages here. Hey, Ray, and let's see. Is it Valvenix? Several, definitely a combination in there. It seems apparent that the VR is a suffix. How's it going? It's moving along. We're getting the decision tree wired up. The worst variable name I've used? Oh. I fret about that too much, maybe. I've used variable names that I regret afterwards and change because I want them to be meaningful. It's the worst, I think, long term would be too many iterator variables. So, counting variables, things like generally you use IJK, and after that, the wheels come off and you start using like all kinds of different letters. It's avoiding the temptation to use those when it is not just for iteration right here and now. And even then, it's still often a better idea to not use use those iterators if you're going to use more than one at a time. You know, like if I'm iterating over rows and columns, and I've done this in this code set, I and J can be used in whatever order you want, but I and J. Or you could use column X and column Y so that it is very, very clear in your code what it's supposed to be for. Hey there, Alt. Welcome. We are getting our decision tree structure wired up. I'm gonna do start collision calculation. So and just so. Is the Clippy still being used for and like right to repair / stopping companies from slowly lobotomizing software? Like, I like the motive, but it's also a terrible, terrible icon for it because Clippy embodies kind of what is being done with generative AI currently, where it was a feature that a company thought was useful but became notoriously hated, and that they wouldn't get rid of it, you know? So, you know, absolutely cool motivation to have it, just weird choice. Slogans and logos are something that can, like, undermine what you're going for. I mean, Clippy only wanted to help, but Clippy was infuriatingly bad at it. You know, if I'm stuck in the trenches, I don't want Fumble Fingers McGee to be my grenadier. Really earnest, really wants to help. I don't want to get blown up. Okay, so we have start and finish physics now, ever so slowly. I know there have been a couple of settings, so it's maybe saying better than the trench being dug is a non-Euclidean maze. Twofold in there. I love I love having learned that Lovecraft chose non-Euclidean because Lovecraft encountered the concept of Euclidean versus non-Euclidean geometry. And because non-Euclidean geometry was explicitly associated with non-Western culture, like that was how it was presented. It was immediately scary because math, and also evil because foreign. But the idea of like the eternal, the eternal trenches, the trenches that go everywhere, to the extent where they're more of a strange and meaningless maze to those people in it, has a lot of good narrative power. They did that in Look Outside as well. The idea of the trenches as a sort of maze and a state of existence. Oh yeah, I would rather have Clippy than Copilot. At least Clippy you can tell to be quiet and it will go away at least for some period of time. They keep trying to shoehorn Copilot into everything. And where it doesn't jump in your face, it's insidiously behind the scenes, extracting information you don't want. It's why, like, Windows Recall was already a terrible feature that people didn't really want. But seeing the now sudden push for Copilot creates that more sinister aspect to it, is they were trying to get the data scraping mechanisms in place early. The generative AI programs, language models, all of those have become, since they were created in their current form, they have been expensive to run, and it is only getting fantastically more so. But even the versions that we were using at the start of the year were prohibitively expensive, like impractically expensive to use and operate. It's why companies and similar are running into the problem that these AI companies are now starting to bill with the idea of making money, and those bills have to be really big to offset the raw compute of running it, as well as the real estate and power and all of that in the background. Hey there, Lunar. Did we add the mandatory solitaire or analog minigame that if you fail causes your R&D project to explode, resetting the progress yet? Not yet. But like we mentioned, sudden mini games can be very interesting, even if they're just side mini games. Inscription is still a good example of where you can change things up, Streaming is another one of those things that it took off because it was novel for folks. Like, hey, I like the programs that are available through something like Netflix. I will watch it. But then all of those companies looked at it and said, hey, we can do that too. So they took a lot of the shows that were going onto the broad platforms and made their own platforms. But because those platforms, like the whole concept of a streaming service, is not free. You don't just pluck the idea from the ether and it starts working with no cost. You still need the services, you still need the servers, you still need all of that stuff. And now that's not shared. That's not you saying, hey, company doing the distribution, we get our cut and you handle all of the logistics of the circumstance. It is, we have to handle all of the logistics. and provide the content. It is sadly leading to the fact that all of those platforms are now kind of choking themselves to death. Either because they're trying to scramble to fill the void in content without lowering the cost to the consumer, or because they keep walling off more and more stuff to have their own things and making it not worth the cost, just full stop. It is another would you like to see your capitalism? Am I going to add walls and buildings, or have I added it? Yes. Let me show you. We were in the process of doing that before we discovered the physics problem. So the black surface is what I'm calling floor right now. The player is not subjected to floor. Outside of the map is just enemies can enter the room from any direction. But once they are in the room, areas that are not floor, enemies cannot traverse. The player entered through that red dot. The entry for this room is positioned a little down from 0, and this door is placed right here. When the player enters through that door, they arrive here. We don't have collision for the door again, but I could set it up again so that if I touched the door, it would throw me back to where it would go. Originally, I was thinking of having like the giant open infinite map, but I've started to shift towards constraining it more because that also reduces the number of things I need to worry about being on the screen at the same time. Convenient, but I thought it might be neat to explore having kind of a Binding of Isaac / or alternately a brawler or shoot 'em up style map where you progress in different directions. Start physics and the end physics. Now we need to make actions in the decision tree that start physics and finish physics. These are our base actions, which we will move to here. Now we will add some subfolders for physics stuff. Moment, adjusting posture. Actually, this is a really good opportunity for me to take a quick break. I'm going to stand up and move around a little bit. I need to remember to do that so that my spine doesn't explode. Be back in a moment. Settling back in, just a moment. There we go. And hello, DJ. Welcome. Sorry for the delay. Okay, so what we need to do now is extend our action decision nodes, which are do a thing. I don't necessarily want it to be this way. Because that would require any function that we have to fit that pattern. It is not out of the question for us to do that. But I feel like instead of explicitly having an action decision node, we have specific ones. We'll leave this thing alone for now. This was one of those like, oh man, it would be generic and reusable if I built it this way. And very quickly it was, but wait, if I build it this way, that has consequences and like ripple effect. It's kind of like I was mentioning earlier how if you build it a particular way, you can start to run into, but wouldn't it be expedient? And having this generic action here would work for now, but it would likely mean that I would need more and more wrapper functions for things to convert from that structure to what I actually needed, because everything's going to behave a little bit differently. So having a start physics decision node and end physics decision node is easier than having this generic action and interpreting that action as a result. I could still do that, but having an explicit one is also going to make the code much more readable. What did we call it? Start physics and finish physics. Extends decision node. And we can take pretty much this. Let's make sure services has that, so I'm doing this right. Collision manager. Physics state is the one that has it now, right? Yeah. We'll get physics state. To services dot solve physics state. It currently doesn't use Delta, but having the option of recording the amount of time could be useful here. especially in the finish physics portion. We could require it to have, for some unit of time to have passed, that perhaps 1 minimum unit of time has passed. So like 1/60th of a second needs to have passed before we do this. We allow this step to happen. So it could immediately return busy, like it hasn't been long enough. So this is the start physics, and then we are going to have pretty much a sibling, a near duplicate sibling. Sammy, are you done? Sammy's done. Someone's decision node, and then we're going to go into our start physics. Let's take this one. Say finish physics. Okay, so now we have a node that is explicitly for start and finish. We can make this further effective here by adding to physics state the idea of it is ready to start physics and ready to finish physics. It's already baked into them to not really start unless they have to, but to make it clear, I'm not going to do this unless I'm ready to do this, could be useful. Again, not immediately, but this gives me flexibility if I have to change it off of shader logic in the future. We'll add delta in there as well. So currently, how this is going to work is we're just going to check the computing variable in the shader one. This is C#, Alt. Yeah, it looks very similar to Java. To take... There. This is more robust in that if we try to run this, it will throw an exception. Okay, and then in the actual shader one, override Virtual. Gotta be virtual. We need to start. Finish. We're not computing. So this is not long-term ideal. What I would like to do is for this ready to start and finish, for ready to start, we're looking to say it's not computing, but ready to finish, we're looking for it's computing and some known amount of time has passed based on this, based on other information. Just check something real quick here. Sorry. Distracted. Okay, so then we're going to have up here, so we have physics, and we're going to add some new folders here. Say actions. These are going to be No, this is still important, but it should be a decision node in and of itself. Yes. And so it is not necessary for me to do it this way. As in, I don't need an explicit node for this check. The reason that I am doing it this way is that when I'm constructing the tree, it will be abundantly clear what I'm doing. Like, you don't have to know that this step explicitly checks if it's ready. It does. It will verify that it's ready before it does anything. And we could set that up to be an error condition. But I can make it so in the node we say, if I am ready to finish, then we will do the finish check. So I call into them in sequence, because then I can also have ready to finish be part of a group or a priority or anything like that, and it can be intercepted. We're just creating a node instead of having it baked into a node to do a check. So we'll do the same thing more or less in here. extends decision node. Trying to decide if I want the default state to be failure here. I think it's accurate that this node fails. We just have to make sure that we use exceptions when we have a problem. That failure can be something that we would log because it makes sense if for this node to fail. It's not good if start physics or finish physics fails. They should succeed or report that they're busy. If it is true, result is success. Failure is a breakout condition. So, let me verify actually. Concurrent. This is for each we go through, and we're going to record what the predominant result in them was. Not quite right. No, that won't work as is. So a check is a different type of node. It's if it passes, it continues and it relays up. Otherwise, it does nothing. Okay. It is not the same as like an action. It is much more akin to a group. It is a group. So it's should execute is what we are going to call here. We'll also override add child. Actually, we don't need to. We don't need to. So execute is going to go through all of them. A check node is going to say, just run all of them if this passes. So further, it is not a group, it is also a concurrent. Sorry, it is a concurrent. So it's not overriding execute children, it is overriding should execute. Yes. And when a group decision node... Yes. Well, good. I mean, the FF remake has been, I feel like, a success and a good template for other folks to look at when they do a remake. Hopefully, when they look at it as a template, they don't see it as you have to do fancy graphical upgrades. It's as much the narrative and the systems and that kind of stuff being improved are, I think, the biggest win. Hey there, DJ. Okay, so we are overriding should execute for these. Otherwise, it's just a concurrent that overrides should execute. Yes. There we go. Right. It's if folks are going to remaster, then it should be a graphical upgrade. A remake can be a remaster in addition, but a remake has to be is primarily a let's make it as if we were making it right now. We already know you can make 2D pixel games. I'm not even talking HD 2D. You can make low-res pixel games today, and they can do well. So that's not part of the remake. Can be. It's allowed to be. And you might expect it to be, but it doesn't have to be. Remake is everything else. Modernize everything else. Ready to finish is ready to finish, and then we do the same thing here. Okay, so now we have the checks, which are just concurrence, but that they have a very particular check they're doing. This is our current pattern. It's if I have specific things I want to do, I make a node for those specific things. It means there's a lot of extra classes floating around, but that means I know what they do by looking at the sequence of classes. I don't have to parse what they do by, like, oh, I have to provide a function handle, a method address or something like that in order to make them work. I don't need to worry that that could break down. It's right here we're saying, okay, find out what the current physics state is, and if it's ready to, and I want it to start, do the start. If I want to know if it's safe to start, I get the current physics state and I say, is it safe to start? If it is safe to start, it will then do everything under it. A common pattern in this, and what we will do, is that ready to start will be a concurrent decision node that has one child, and that's start physics. So if it is ready to start, do it. This pattern could have it where if it's ready to start physics, do this sequence of things back to back. But right now it's if X, then do all of Y. But if not X, then you did nothing. Now let's make sure that that flows here. Yes, this is until something happens in a priority node. If something succeeds, fails, or is busy, we stop. Okay, this lines up. All is well. Or will eventually be. Let's do an interim. Change. Now we need to construct the tree. And that should happen as part of the game. Okay, so we don't have all of this, but we can have... There's one more little bit that we want to do. And that's the world step. So I could have it where the world step is listening to the game heartbeat. That way we know how much time has passed fully and it can just immediately continue. So the world step operates at a fixed time slice. No matter what, we don't run any faster than that. And if we run slower than that, we treat it as if it weren't running slower. So if our world operates at 30 steps a second, then if the computer is running fast enough for 120 steps per second, it still gives the simulation a time slice that says 130 times a second. So it will wait 4 frames, the equivalent of waiting 4 frames to do 1 frame if we're operating faster. And if it's only processing at 15 frames a second, then when we get around to that one of those 15 frames, we tell the simulation, hey, 1/30th of a slice has happened. So the world is going slower, but the simulation is happening at the same pace. So we need to account for that. What we can do is have the node subscribe to the game heartbeat and have it keep track of the delta that is coming through. It doesn't actually care about the check. It is going to execute as often as you call it. It doesn't care about the delta that comes in during the check, because physics could be blocking us from getting that. We aren't saying that the required time passing is once physics is done, now we wait. It is since the last time we did a world step update, how long has it been? If we just do it as a wait, that will also work best case scenario. It can slow it down. Let's start with easy. Where we will just do a world step. So there is not going to be a check on the front of it. It will say, if this much time has passed, I'll do it. Otherwise, I won't. And we have this in our game setup here. Hello, Fluff. Welcome. Okay, so the world handler is going to do that currently. It's using it as a double. Let's make sure it's a double. So this is on game time passed. We're doing this. Override, execute. Decision node result is equal to decision node result nothing. Like world step decision node. It's less than or equal to 0. This isn't right. I mean, hopefully, Tass, we don't get Clutch Claw again for the Wilds expansion. And I don't mean like a grappling hook. I mean the fact that Clutch Claw effectively for a good bit of Iceborne was just spam this and win for some weapons. Yeah. If there we go. So we have a fixed tick rate that says when we start, we get what the fixed tick will be, and that is going to be, by default, like what we have it set up to be is 1/30th. We could have it be whatever we want. Then if it's less than or equal to 0, we set it to 1. This shouldn't happen. Like, it's bad if this happens. I'd have to look it up. If this would be a modulo, but we can't modulo on a float, which is weird, but maybe not. Yes, we can. Fact check me there, Tess. Can you modulo on a double and expect to get the result that you would want to, the actual remainder on the double? Or am I going to get 0? You know, is it going to do integer flattening for me? Thanks. This is time pass, so we do a ooh. That's not actually right. Interesting. Just remember what I said is that the time that is passed should always be a fixed step inside of the world. This is making that not true. Interesting. No, it's in this case. What it was saying is the amount of time that was passing was equal to the time that passed from the game state. The time passed message was E in that, following the normal construction of a event handler. But by doing that, even though we're saying that it should be at a fixed tick rate, we're passing in how much time passed in this moment, which might not be enough to trigger a fixed tick. So we could have accumulated 1/30th of a second, but what was passed in was 1/60th of a second. That's wrong. That's making it operate probably slower in the simulation than it should. Okay, so then we have world step decision node here. And so what we want to do is in the game, in our process, it should be physics process. No, we need to build the node first. Oof. Ow. Ow. Spine. So this is going to be the first thing is a priority decision node here. So we create a priority decision node. It is going to be we do whatever triggers first. We will go through each of them. The first one is going to be a ready to start physics. Yes, the names are wordy, but that's kind of the point. Is these are decision nodes. This one's for ready to start physics. It is very, very clear what this node is for. New start. Okay, so in the priority list, the first one is ready to start physics. If we're ready to start physics, we will do the start physics. Then the next one is going to be... Actually, no, this one's later. Let's put them in the actual order here. No, I think that's actually... This is actually correct. It's if physics is ready to go, if I am not computing physics, now is the time to do it. It's this order. Not quite right. So each of these needs to fire only if we're actually ready to fire them. If physics is needed, we are blocking. So this one blocks. Then the next thing is physics ready? If physics is ready, then we are going to get the physics result and proceed into world step ready. Physics result is going to return success unless something goes wrong. It's a second priority. So it is, if we need to do physics, we do that. If we don't need to do physics, then we're going to say, is physics ready to go? If physics is ready to go, then we will do that. We will process that, and then we will proceed into world step ready. But I don't want to do world step ready unless this happens. So we need to accomplish this without having this one reset this one. Which leads us back into our collision manager. So it's not just that we aren't computing it. It's that we have a new result. We have a new thing. Like world steps done means something has changed. If something has changed, we're ready to go again. What else? Are there other events that we could be listening to? Yeah. This is our guy. So we have... If world state has not changed yet, we don't need to do a calculation. But whenever a world step's done happens, world state changed has occurred. And then when we are done with our physics calculation, oh, not quite, not quite. This isn't quite right. We don't care that it's a message. This should be a state that we are checking. That is, if at the moment the world state is different than last time, then we run the calculation. Such that if in the midst of the okay, no. So on world steps done, we say that this is true. Whenever we get this, we say that the world state is different. And we negate it when we actually start the calculation. Yeah. So, world state changed. We got a world step happened. That tells us that something is different. Even if nothing is actually different, we treat it as if it's different. As soon as we get around to doing this, we're saying, as of right now, it's not different. So we get all the way down here. As of right now, it is not different, technically, as of right now. it's not different. As soon as I've submitted this, the last changes have been accounted for. Is as long as we don't go async in this, like we are within the physics step. As long as we don't have another thread messing with this, this is accurate. So we'll put it at the end just for clarity. So if during calculation another world state change happens, this is ready to go. But as far as calculation is concerned, as far as are we ready to calculate again, so we need to be not computing and world state changed. So until computing is off, we can't start physics again, and we don't care about starting physics again unless world state has changed. So that puts us in the position where we should be able to use this flow. If I need to do physics, we're going to start physics. So that is, I got to the bottom of world step here. If I don't need to do physics, we are computing. So I get a do nothing on that node. The next one is physics ready? Ideally, it will be immediately ready. If it's immediately ready, we're going to check and see, is it computing? If it's computing, it's ready currently. So we get the physics results and broadcast them. Now we are not computing, and the world state has not changed because I haven't done another world step yet. So then I am not right. I'm not computing, but world state hasn't changed. I am not computing. I'm sorry. I am not currently computing, so we don't do physics. I am not computing, but world state hasn't changed. So we hit this one and we do this one. So this is the last node. So the first one is if we need to start physics. So this is ready to start physics. So we're going to put you here. Okay, we're saying that this root node is a priority decision node. We're going to store that off as the root of the tree. Then, is physics needed? We get this in place as the first child. So this is, do we need to start physics? Then we have this is ready to finish physics. To new ready to finish node. So we add the node there, then we do root node, add child. It just suggested that I put the root node as a child of a leaf node. Yeah, it's totally what I want to have happen. So then the world step 1 is right there. And we say root node new world step decision node. Okay, so now if I call execute on this, this should do our basic flow here. It's getting all of this properly wired up, though. So these are the world steps that are still happening. This shouldn't be where we're doing this, actually. We should be doing this in the base world state. But it's not on game time past. This is in part of world state. This is a public world step in the base world state, which isn't implemented properly anymore. Get the skeleton in place. Now what this will do is it will do what game time past is currently doing. Here. We'll just have it do this for the most part. We will need to adjust it according to what we just did in the other spot, because we don't have this. Only when we get a world step do we increment delta. Is equal to we got this far, physics is done, or we do not care. Which is an important distinction. So in base world state, we're going to have this instead of this. Just E dot delta. Changing so much at once. So do any of that or that. Or this. This is very good. We want exactly this happening. World state. World state is equal to services. Solve. There we go. Much simpler. Okay. Then we are no longer going to care about this one or this one. It's still going to emit these messages, but it's not caring about the others. So then I'm going to leave this in place for now. It's hello sky. Let's check that rundown that I wrote up. Game time pass, we do world start step, world time pass, world end step. Okay, we have circumvented that in game time past. The only thing that happens in game time past. Okay, yes, we just need to call. We should just need to call the tree now. Oof. Execute with delta. Do. Result does not. Well, does not equal nothing, and If it's fail... Okay, so we're going to try to execute the tree once. If the result is success, we keep trying until it's over. There is a risk surface here. We could have an iteration cap to say you can only go so far. We're reaching a point to where we might be able to do that. Okay. How do DLLs work? And how do you make them work? Oof. At a very low level, what you end up doing is loading the DLL into the process and then binding the methods and such of that DLL onto corresponding access points. That depends on the language there, Robloxian. Different programming languages deal with them differently. It's going to depend on your IDE and the language being used. I'm only saying it in a vague sense because for the most part, what you end up doing, well, again, depends on the IDE and the language. Okay, add more. Fewer frames per second than I'd like. And we still have an unhandled call in our rendering device. There is a object being disposed of that is already disposed of, and you don't do that. Server-sided hacks for a game get made on the server. That is, you have to have access to the server to do something server-side. That's assuming the client hasn't been given access to a method on the server. So if there is a hack of some kind, it is either through access privilege or because of a fundamental capability of the program. You have a lot of typos in that sentence. Okay, so there's a race condition on the C# side for that working out that way. Okay. But you can already see, as far as the performance of the application, that it is running faster than we had been. All right, Calamity Case, let's go. Give me all of the things. 15,000. We should see gaps in the spawning in a moment. Yeah. Okay, we're at our 20,000 cap. No errors being propagated. Seven frames per second at 20,000. Just dipped to 6. Some new spawns happening because entities are being removed. The mass grows. Okay, now we have it fall off. Let it climb back in performance and see where we cap out. Definitely seeing some garbage collection hitches happen. You can see the lifespan ticks occurring. Okay, at about... Hello, Boz. Okay. It's a pretty good performance at this many. The field is kind of Swiss cheesy because it is meant to demonstrate the enemy wall avoidance logic. Okay, at 800, we're still feeling fine. All right, between 800 and, 2,400. Uh, 183 streams now, I believe, Roblox. Okay, this is an overabundance of entities. No, I stream a few times a few times a week. So calendar-wise, quite a while. Raw hours-wise, not so much. Kind of in that territory, Buzz. Like, if we converted it to work days, not very long at all. Be cautious of your phrasing, Roblox. I don't know that you intended it to be that way, but one could construe that to be very rude. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Enough of that. Good opportunity for a reminder for those folks that are here. The channel has one real rule, and that's don't be rude. I'm generally nicer, or at least I'm slower to act than some of my moderators are. If I feel like you're being rude, you probably are. There are different thresholds, boss, as far as what you're trying to accomplish and what skill set. I don't disagree that the floor for making a reasonable 3D model can be easier to achieve. If you're talking about an actual three-dimensional environment, that can actually have a greater burden on you. The classic problem of 3D platformers having a lot of issues to get them right is a good illustration of how 3D has an extra layer of complexity. Your camera controls and timing and spatial physics and all of that are extra burdens. If you're talking about just in the environment, yeah, 3D models can be easier, especially if you're going for super simple, very abstract. I'm using 2D because I feel like there's a charm in low resolution 2D imagery. And yeah, it's if your skill set falls into that, like if that's a thing that you already know how to do, I would really suggest just doing that. Especially if it's like your first project. If you're looking to, develop new skills, of course, you pick the thing that you pick something in the flow that you want to learn. Okay, it's still not the optimum number of things active at once that I want. I want about 2,000 to 3,000. Did I actually record that? Oh. Need to be cautious of that. But having done this, we have a better starting place for messing with that. Okay, let's recap. Let's find buttons. Range when it comes to games, it's easier for me to make 3D, but for the life of me, when it comes to art, I can't do. They're all different skill sets. 2D, 3D art, 2D, 3D art of different resolutions. I like 2D art, but I definitely can't do high res 2D art. Like those were the little character in the middle is 32 by 32, and that's hitting my limits. I started at 16 by 16, and I think I was doing pretty good, but there's an amount of detail that you start to lose because you don't have flexibility of scale. If you're sticking to 16 by 16, the classic Game Boy size. 16 is still a classic unit, like the original Mario was generally 16 by 16 or 32 by 16. If I recall correctly, low res stuff. But building the system so that it can handle bigger things is definitely something that I need to do, and it's a good opportunity to learn to do higher detail 2D art. Same would be if I was doing 3D stuff. I would probably start with like polygons. Lots of cones and cubes running around. and then progress as I learned the skills for 3D art, as I learned to apply textures, that kind of thing. Building skills. This project for me, first major project in C#, first project ever for me in Godot, first time really doing 2D pixel art like that. Broken ribcage? Definitely because of prototype testing purposes and in no way related to some sort of violence. Entirely on the up and up. Everything is fine. But that's just for those. Only the glass is broken. That's a viewing aperture, not a full damaged cavity, nor anything else you might have seen. But as far as code today, we got our finished decision tree nodes. Hooray. We've got world step and physics wired up to actually use them, which is going to call out a whole bunch of events that we don't need anymore. All of the physics done steps and even the game time steps don't actually need to be there anymore, which is fantastic. It leaves us only with the world steps, and we're using those currently to drive the entities. And I think that's still okay for now. Might still want to double back and look at maybe making them a loop again, but by separating them out, there's still merit in separating them out. We just need to figure out exactly how we want to do it. But yeah, we made progress today. Slow and steady, slow and steady. Like I mentioned earlier, folks, we're taking our time on this. We're doing it primarily on the streams, and we're doing a lot of chatting while we go. Very stream of consciousness. We're not in a rush. This is, again, an opportunity to learn for everybody involved, as well as an opportunity to refine thought processes and design. We are not in a rush to crank something out. This is not a time-limited game jam. So keep that in mind. But I hope you had a good time watching with us tonight. If you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. It's generally good. So I'd appreciate it if you press those buttons. It will help the channel grow. If you'd like to consider financially supporting the channel, you can do so through platform-specific means, as well as other options available through the link tree in my bio and video descriptions. Our next stream should be a gaming stream, and it should be tomorrow. I really want it to be tomorrow, but it is what it is sometimes. I will try to post it soon. But again, folks, I hope the rest of your day is good, and I'll see you next time.